So, good morning. A little bit later this morning, but it's all right. Stuck in traffic, barely moving. It's one of those days. So, a lot of people come here for help. A lot of people want the help from guys like me that are in the field that get to see what's going on with the vehicles every single day, and they they want the recommendations from us. They want us to look at them and tell them straight. Like if you have a Ford Escape with a PTU and an RDU, a rear drive unit, and a power transfer unit, whatever it may be, right? Or transmission, the engine, the power steering fluid, whatever it may be of a fluid that you have. What are our service intervals? What are we seeing them fail the most at versus what's the most successful? And we'll tell them, and they'll follow our recommendations to a T, and they'll live happily long lives with the mating of that vehicle in their life, in their possession. And then there's an even bigger percent that tries to stretch it as far as they can because they don't want to put the money into the vehicle, and they often use the excuse, well, that manual over there in the glove box, if they even read the manual in the glove box, or that manual in the computer screen now, because everything's in the radio face, it's not paper manual anymore. It says that that's a lifetime fluid in that transmission. And then you hear people outside of warranty talking about how much their transmission is failing, or the manufacturer tells you that it's a sealed power transfer unit, or the RDU, the rear drive unit, only has to be serviced every 100,000 miles or something. A lot of you have to realize that there's not enough fluid in a lot of these mechanical working components on your vehicle that help you engage four-wheel drive, that help you move through gear sets so you can get up to speed on the highway to be serviced appropriately. You can't expect a power transfer unit on an Escape that has half a quart of fluid to last the lifetime of that vehicle, or 100,000 miles, or for 50,000 miles for that matter. There's literally a half a quart of fluid in some of these units that engage the four-wheel drive, or engage the disconnect for the rear drive. And a half a quart to a quart of fluid being baked over and over and over and over again is not going to benefit you. There's a reason why we recommend you servicing these things early. I've got a 2016 Escape right now that the transmission's never been serviced, and at 63,000 miles, there's literally metal flakes and chunks coming apart inside the transmission that came out with the fluid. It has the power transfer unit. When I pulled the plug, the drain plug for it, actually it wasn't even the drain plug, it was the when I pulled the fill plug for the power transfer unit, it had so much material built up on it and the drain plug that it had added about a ½ inch longer extension to that plug inside the housing. That's how much material came off of it. And at 62,000 miles, the oil pan is already starting to leak at the rear from the rear main seal. The customer was doing 10,000 mile oil changes, and they did not service the transmission ever since owning it, and they did not service the power transfer unit since owning it, because the manufacturer said these things don't need to be done. It's a cost saving to the customer, and they are sticking solely by those recommendations, and that's what they're going by, is what the manufacturer says. Well, I've got news for you. These manufacturers don't have your best interest in mind. On paper, on that window sticker, when you go to purchase that vehicle, they have your best interest in mind in what they're telling you, on what they're making you feel. They do not have your best interest in mind when it comes to what's actually going on with that vehicle. They want to sell it. They want to make you feel like you're empowered to not have to put as much money into it as you do. And unfortunately, it leaves you for a lot of room for failure. I would say in the 75% or greater percentile of failure because of the recommendations that are given. What a lot of people fail to recognize is there's different service intervals that are in that manual, and none of us fit the normal service interval or the extended service interval. We're all in that severe duty category. So if you were to flip over to the back of your manual and you look at the severe duty category, you'd be better off by following the severe duty category than anything. Oil changes by 5,000 miles is what I recommend. Transmission services by 50,000 miles is what I recommend. Power steering flushes at least every couple years is what I recommend. Brake fluid flushes by 2 years, if not sooner, is what I recommend. Rear differential and front differential is, I recommend, every 50 to 60,000. If you're a fleet company, every 40,000, because you guys destroy your rear ends, front and rear front differentials by 50, 60,000 miles. They come in howling because of how people just don't care about the fleet vehicles, and they just abuse the living hell out of them. The rear drive unit every 20,000 miles. The power transfer unit every 20 to 30,000 miles, closer to 20. There's only a half a quart of fluid in that. Coolant by every 50 to 60,000 miles. Keep that coolant electrolysis down and minimize the risk of potential heater core leaks and radiator leaks and stuff like this, and keep everything nice and fresh. Keep the electrolysis down. So there's a reason why I go through and I recommend the things that I do based on the volume of customers I see and the mileage at which they're servicing, what works and what doesn't work. A lot of people just don't want to listen to it because they say, well, the manufacturer said. Well, that book said. Well, that book is to get you outside of warranty, so they're not on the hook for anything anymore. That book is to get you outside of where it's not their responsibility anymore, and now you're on the hook. So unless you have an extended service plan or some kind of aftermarket warranty that's pretty good, that's going to pay for everything. And mind you, a lot of the aftermarket warranties, your claims don't just get put through. They get put through, they see the claim, and then they have to send an adjuster out to actually look at it and investigate what's going on with that vehicle. I had a guy, the one I was just talking about, he came out yesterday morning, he looked at everything. He said, wow, there is like little metal flakes and chunks, and it looks like glitter inside that trans oil. Look at all that debris, that clutch material buildup, that debris buildup that's on that power transfer unit clutch material. I mean, the buildup that's on that power transfer unit plug, and how nasty that oil is. It's like tar, syrup coming out. And it does look like the rear main seal is leaking right out of the bottom of that weep hole. It's not trans fluid. This is going to be an expensive repair. And on top of that, I had a P144C purge valve underboost issue going on. Well, it does look like everything that you said is right, and based on your findings and the codes and stuff that were present, looks like they do need a new trans. They are going to need a new power transfer unit. They will need the oil pan resealed, and they're probably going to need a new purge valve based on the pinpoint test through Ford. This is going to be an expensive repair. You just took a vehicle that's probably only worth $9,000 to $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 max, and you're charging out more than half of the value in parts. It's going to be $5,100, $5,200 for a transmission. It's going to be another $1,500, $1,600 for a power transfer unit. It's going to be a couple hours labor to reseal the pan. $50 and maybe not $50 in parts, $40 in parts. You're talking about some major stuff going on here that now you've exceeded, $6,500, $7,000 worth of repair, and that vehicle isn't worth $11,000, $12,000 max. Maybe $13,000 into today, $13,000, $14,000 in today's market, private party. So now we have to start looking at, what is this costing us? Will this happen again? Is the owner going to listen to my recommendations after everything gets approved, if it gets approved, and actually do what I asked them to do to stop them from having to come back in and do this again? I don't know how many times I've made these major repairs on people's vehicles and recommend, please come see me sooner. It's going to be a fraction of what it's going to cost to replace all this stuff again. Please come see me sooner to get this stuff serviced. Let me take care of you. I'm not trying to take advantage of you. I'm trying to protect you. If you just listen to what I have to say, I will help you out. But if you don't listen to what I have to say, you're going to be right back in here again, spending, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 doing this all over again. A lot of times they don't listen. A lot of times I'll see them again two years later, a year and a half, 3 years later, whatever, and I'm doing part of the repairs all over again. The manufacturers make it look good on that window sticker on the vehicle. They make it look good in that book, or whatever that you think you can follow, that you're not even following the right service interval to begin with. They make it look real good and sound real sweet to make you purchase that vehicle. But on the service side of the manufacturers, there's no engineers that work for that company. If you actually talk to an engineer that worked for Toyota or Ford or Chevy or Nissan, any of them, Chrysler, they would tell you that they would never stick to the recommendations that's in that book. they would always, according to the book, over maintenance to protect their own pocket and their investment. That's my message today, guys. I appreciate y'all. I love you. Have a blessed day. Remember, these manufacturers on the marketing side, it's a marketing ploy. They need to sell the vehicle, and that's exactly what they're going to do. In a perfect world, their recommendations work. This is not a perfect world. They don't work. Y'all take care. This is not me attacking the manufacturer. This is me just being honest with you about what's going on. Be blessed.